The number 7 is a popular number in biblical history. In Old Testament times, the seventh day was a day of rest. The seventh month was a feast that lasted 7 days. The year of Jubilee, 7 times, 7 years, plus one. In New Testament times, the first deacons in the church numbered 7. 7 churches of Asia, 7 golden candlesticks representing the 7 churches. Now, this may or may not have had anything to do with why Peter asked, should he forgive his brother 7 times when he sinned against him? Sometimes we have a tendency to take a number or an incident and incorporate it into something that we're trying to emphasize. Jesus was using a figure of 70 times, that which Peter used to emphasize how many times we should be willing to forgive. But the lesson goes far beyond this. As we hear further about the wicked servant who owed his master a huge sum of money, when he called to account for payment, he was unable to pay, and he pleaded for mercy. His master had compassion upon him and forgave him of the debt. Well, as the story continues, the servant accosted one who owed him just a small fraction of what he had been forgiven, and because he couldn't repay his debt, he was thrown into prison. Whereupon, when the master heard of what had transpired, he was filled with righteous indignation, and he threw the wicked servant into prison until he had paid the uttermost farthing. The basic principle of Jesus' lesson here is to teach us the difference between good and evil, between justice and oppression, to put us in the proper frame of mind so we make decisions that will give us peace of mind and better fit us to live eternally, such as looking at our own shortcomings and our need for forgiveness as compared to the injustices, whether they are imagined or real, that we may have. It would seem that when we are most burdened with domestic problems or problems concerning our moral conduct, it is then that we look around for a scapegoat, anything or anyone to use for an excuse for not doing the things we know we ought to do, such as going to worship services or something as simple as forgiving someone who has wronged us. Holding a grudge seems to us to be something that takes the least effort and makes us feel as if we have things under control. But if we slow down and look a little deeper into our own heart, we know that neither of these is true. It is a drain both mentally and physically because consciously or subconsciously we know that we are fighting ourselves against that which we know we should do. As for being in control, an unforgiving spirit is not only small, it demeans us as human beings, and our life shows it is the grudge and not us that is in control. As we listen further to this story, the teacher is telling us that we will find such a spirit, when put into practice, carries a rather severe penalty for us. The prayer that the Lord taught his disciples, commonly called the Lord's Prayer, he teaches, "Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us." But is this really what we want? Do we really mean that statement? Sometimes we feel we may have a genuine reason for raising a question about forgiving someone in a particular case. A child may have been mistreated, an elderly couple may have been swindled out of their life savings, their home, or any of a host of reasons we may feel are legitimate for having ill feelings toward someone. All of these things, they do not go unnoticed by God. He's very much aware of the feelings such occasions may bring out in us. And he's not teaching us this is how it should be or do as I say to do. He is setting an example for us. Look for a moment, a short time into the future, hanging on the cross for doing nothing more than saying who he really was, the Son of the living God. Jealousy and hate were the emotions ruling the mob responsible for his death. But even so, he left us an example that makes him the supreme authority on forgiving. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Forgiving is not always the easiest thing for us to do, but when we look at the example that is left for us, And that feeling of inner peace that forgiving someone invariably gives to us, plus the fact that we're better fitting ourselves to live eternally, we find that this is something that can and should be done. Friends, we thank you for joining us today, and have a blessed day.